New Zealand police have joined international forces putting pressure on a social networking site that's been linked to a spate of teenage suicides. Parents in this country who've had a brush with the social networking site Ask.fm describe it as evil and addictive. But internet safety advocate Martin Cocker says that people are too quick to blame the owners, that those who use the site know what they're putting themselves up for. And he's our guest on tonight's End Zone Now. Well, Martin, thank you for joining us on the programme.
Thank you for having me on the show.
As the CEO of NetSafe, I guess stories like Ask.fm are something that you deal with pretty much all the time. You're always coming across sites that are a concern. Is Ask.fm particularly bad?
Oh, Ask.fm is the side of the day. It's the concerning side of the day. So young people in New Zealand have found it a particularly interesting place to go. Obviously, it's not based anywhere near here. It's based out of Latvia. There are behaviours that are carried out on it that are quite risky, and there are some negative consequences as a result of Ask.fm.
So just tell us a bit about the site. It's a social media site, isn't it? So it's sort of like Facebook for
yeah.
People.
I mean, for the average person, they would think of it as being very much like Facebook. It has a particular focus on asking questions of your community and having responses to those questions, as opposed to posting content about things that you're into.
So what is it that makes it different to the others?
Well, the main difference about Ask.fm was that it encouraged anonymous posting. So you could ask a question and then anybody on the site could answer it, but you wouldn't know who it was that was answering it. As a result of posting responses anonymously, people really pushed the boundaries in terms of their answers and produced quite a bit of offensive content.
My inclination would be, if it was anonymous, then that was asking for trouble, or am I naive?
No, that's exactly right. And in fact, a site like Facebook discourages anonymity because they know that improves behaviour. Ask.fm was looking for a slightly different sort of spot in the market, and they encouraged it. What we're seeing a lot of users turn that off. Actually, for a lot of users, it's not a positive experience, and so they're turning it off.
It's interesting. It has been picked up by the police here, who say it should be blocked or shut down or stopped. David Cameron, the British Prime Minister, is also saying that it's the sort of site that should be blocked. He's particularly on their backs because there are at least 4 teen suicides, that have been linked to Ask.fm. Cyberbullying seems to be something that Ask.fm, maybe they didn't think about it, but it certainly seems to be promoting it.
Well, I mean, there's definitely cyberbullying on any social networking site. In fact, there's cyberbullying on any cyber platform. So, whether it's phones or it's, the internet, there's always going to be some bullying. And a lot of companies, when they start up, they get a rush of users, but they don't have the resources to maintain any kind of trust and safety on the site. And so, yeah, I mean, you've seen, everyone from PMs to police forces saying, Ask.fm is evil and has no place in our society and should be banned or blocked. Now, we can't really support that, because you could remove Ask.fm from the internet by a variety of means. It's not going to be entirely effective in terms of most of the means that we have available to us, but you could put a ban on it or try to block it. But another site will pop up immediately in another location with the same kind of thing, same kind of function. It's much better to work constructively with these people. So NetSafe, for example, has a relationship now with Ask.fm, where we say, if there's issues in New Zealand, we talk directly to their team. And yeah, they're struggling because they've become popular quickly, but they're trying to engage. Well, that's much better than just pushing the problem onto another site. The flip side of that is that it would be good to see pressure on especially emerging sites to get their act into order more quickly and to put trust and safety resources in from the start.
Is that something that NetSafe can do? But I guess you need to know that the site's starting up before you can go to them.
Yeah, that's right. We can't put that pressure on them we're a New Zealand entity, and most of these sites are based overseas. But if people thought, if I produce a site which is unsafe, that access to that site will be blocked somehow, then they might try to put a more safe framework in place right from the start. But we have to be realistic. This is the internet. It's the whole design of the thing is about routing around and finding ways to get traffic through. So, you can try to block something somewhere, but it will be available somewhere else.
Somebody once said to me, it's the Wild West and the sheriff's out of town.
Yeah, well, the sheriff sort of rides around, but he doesn't control the internet, absolutely. But you know, the police are talking about blocking or banning it. Well, you could block it or ban it from your house, but then it would be available on the internet anywhere you went to a free wireless hotspot, you went to a cafe, something like that. And you know, it's very difficult to actually block access to something on a grand scale.
There must be any firm's PR nightmare is to be publicly pilloried by the Prime Minister of Britain.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I suspect that because their target audience is youth, to have you know, the Prime Minister attack it and say it's a, you know, it's a location we wouldn't want to see young people in, you know, probably created a flood of young people to the site. Long term, they have to do something for their users. You know, they will become popular simply because they're, you know, in the news, but that doesn't mean that it will last forever. And we see site after site, you know, popular for weeks or months, and then, you know, unpopular.
Yeah. Let's widen it and talk a little bit about cyberbullying. There was an NSPCC report out of the UK this week, which said 1 in 5 children was cyberbullied at some time. Would that seem to be about right here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any survey shows somewhere between 10 and 20% each year of young people being cyberbullied, and especially in that middle group, so intermediate, lower secondary. There's a lot of cyberbullying going on in that age group. And yeah, most young people will see it or experience it directly.
Is it always within their own age groups, or is it from outside?
It is mostly within their own age group and peer group. So most bullying goes on between people who know each other. You know, you do get some anonymous bullying, but you know, by definition, it's not as offensive or hurtful as bullying from people that you know. And so most of it's in that peer group.
I mean, we've heard horror stories of kids who have been driven to take their own lives by cyberbullying. It seems to have an effect beyond what you would expect for something that's actually just a text, it's just a message on a website, it's just words, and yet it seems to really hit young people hard.
Yeah, I mean, cyberbullying is often linked with suicide of young people, and that's because there's a lot of cyber activity for young people, and if they're being bullied, it's going to be cyberbullying. You know, obviously any child who commits suicide has you know, other challenges in their life. You know, cyberbullying is very seldom going to be the entire reason that they took their life. But cyberbullying does have this way of getting right into your life, or bringing the harm right into your life at a very personal level.
So what can you do? I mean, you know, any parent watching us tonight will be saying, well, maybe my child is being cyberbullied. First of all, I guess, what are the signs that someone's being bullied?
Yeah, I mean, the signs that someone's being bullied are different for each child, depending on, you know, their personality. So, you know, parents could probably see when their child is had a change in behaviour, or you know, appears to be withdrawn or something, and that's unusual. So it's easier for parents to answer that about their own children than for me to answer it overall. What should parents do? The first thing that people should do is recognise that number, and then recognise that their child will be either experiencing directly or associated with, or experiencing through association, cyberbullying, and talk to them about it. You know, you sit your child down and say, you know, have you seen people being bullied? Have you had that kind of experience? And that conversation will go a long way to protecting them in the future.
What about actually taking steps on your computer? I mean, you said how hard it is to block things. Are there things that you can do to just protect your child while they're online?
Definitely. I mean, young children, you know, directly supervise them. So if you're talking about very young children who might accidentally get themselves into trouble online, then you know, have them near you when they're using their computer. You know, step them through things as they go. Obviously, older children that they're going to access in their own time and way, and so you can't protect them that way. There are tools to filter content. They're effective for younger children. They're not effective for older children, but they do offer some protection. And there are different levels of tools where you can put them on a device, or you can put them on your home router, or you can buy that service from your ISP. But you know, recognise they do filter content, and they do have some protective effect for young children, but they very quickly become less useful as children get older.
Because it's very hard, isn't it? Because so many young people, I mean, all of us to an extent, I guess, are addicted to social media. You know, we'll be on Facebook and Twitter while watching TV tonight. And for young people in particular, they live in a cyber world. So, I mean, I'm not sure if addiction is the right word, but Facebook, Twitter, texting is part of their lives. It's very hard to say, don't do that.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not sure that we would. You know, because Facebook is not harmful, Twitter's not harmful in itself. You know, you just want people to behave responsibly online. It's much better to have them there and teach them to do that than to stop them going there.
Since we've got you here, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's just talk a little bit about the way the internet can affect older people as well. I know that NetSafe has put out a report this week about scams. I mean, the amount of money that is lost by New Zealanders to internet scams is terrifying.
Yeah, it is. And so NetSafe had $4.5 million of direct financial losses reported to us. That's putting aside all the personal loss and grief that scams can cause. What we see, especially in the older users of the internet, is a prevalence of romance scams. But there's a sort of a scam for everybody. So I wouldn't say, particularly, romance scam is the issue. There's a lot of losses to what's called fee forward scams, where you pay money in advance to have money cleared to come to you, or goods cleared to come to you. Yeah, people really need to be a little bit more sceptical. Talk to your friends if you get involved in something online before you send your money, or before you send personal information and commit to anything.
Because it always surprises me that people are still taken in by, everyone knows about the Nigerian prince scam and the variations of that, or at least I thought everybody knew about it, but apparently not.
No, not everybody does. Even some of those traditional scams that seem quite obvious to us, there are a percentage of the population who fall for them. But most scams people are falling for are reasonably complex and more customised towards a particular person or demographic, and therefore they're not as easy to spot as you might think. But if you talk to your friends about it, I think between you will spot it.
So is that's part of the trick, I guess, is don't, if you get that email, don't just say, oh yeah, this looks a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Before you send your money off, talk to someone about it. I mean, you can ring NetSafe, but just talk to your friends and ask them, what do you make of this? And I think that would save people from a lot of harm and grief.
Because we were talking just before the program started about how hard it is for the authorities and for the police to keep up with cybercrime, because it's technology based and the technology is improving all the time, making it hard.
Yeah, that's right. The internet and technology generally has really enabled criminals to share information and divide their labour and do lots of smart things from that perspective, and also increase the cost of law enforcement. Every time you have to look through a device or analyse things online, there's a huge cost associated with that and the technical skill required. So the equations become easier for criminals and harder for law enforcement. And that, I think, puts more pressure on the community to look after itself and to assist law enforcement and try to make that job easier. So
again, this is very much talk to your friends, and if we can work together as a community, then that gives us a chance against the criminal community. Yeah, and that's part of the reason that NetSafe set up the orb.org.nz, so people can report cybercrime and that those reports can be used to help make the community safer. So if this is a site you can go onto and say, I think this is dodgy. Absolutely. If you've been a victim of a crime or you think you've seen a crime online, if you're not certain, just report it, and that data is very useful to the community. And is there anything that NetSafe can do about cyberbullying, going back to our main topic? Can people report that? What should they do there? Yeah, you can report cyberbullying, and in extreme cases it's worth doing, because sometimes people are breaking the law by the kind of bullying they're doing, or putting people in harm's way. So yeah, absolutely you can report that. In the first instance, you're talking about young people in cyberbullying, and they're at school, then talk to the school, and the school will talk to NetSafe if necessary. But yeah, people should feel that they can come to NetSafe and get assistance. Great. Martin, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. That's all we've got time for this week. Do join us again next time. And don't forget, in the meantime, our sister programme, Endzone Focus. As a follow-up to an Endzone Now programme a few weeks ago, we'll be looking at the ever-increasing workload of school counsellors who are struggling to give students the help that they need. But for now, from all of us, ka kite anō.